And if you want me to bring him back, we'll bring him back next week. You like him? His name is Rabbi Schatz. He's like a Shliach Tzibur.
Okay.
Okay. So, we have a strange, I would call it anomaly, that all 10 Makos should theoretically be in the same Parsha, or 5 and 5, 5 in one Parsha, 5 in the other Parsha. But everybody knows, last week's Parsha was 7 Makos, Vayera, and this week's Parsha, Parshas Bo, is only 3 Makos, which actually coincides with the Gematria of Bo, base Aleph, which adds up to 3. So, what's with these 3? From a certain perspective, we could look at it that there's a transition from day to night, in a sense, because the first Makkah, even though it was Arbe, there's a strange expression used both when Hashem tells Moshe about it, when Moshe tells Paro. They say, "V'chisa es ein haaretz." The eye of the land will be covered up. Right? When all of Arba came, there's this huge swarm of locusts that completely covered the ground. That's for sure. So I would understand if it said it's going to cover the ground, but why does it say it's going to cover as ain? The word ain comes from the word ayin, eye, the eye of the earth. How will it cover the eye of the earth? All the arba will come in, settle on all the crops, eat the crops. Very big problem, I understand. But why does it talk about ain haaretz, the eye of the earth? What is even the eye of the earth? The earth has an eye? So Rashi talks about this, if I'm not mistaken. And Rashi says, although I can't find it right now, hopefully I will. Just a minute. That it means the sun. The sun is called the eye of the earth, right? It's like what allows us to see, just like the eye causes us to see. Sifsechamim of which pasuk?
On that Rashi, in pasuk K.
Pasuk K. All right. Oh, there it is. It's Ein Haaretz. Sorry, I didn't see that Rashi. Thank you. As Ein Haaretz, pasuk K in the parsha, as Mar'eh Haaretz, the appearance of the earth. So the appearance of the earth, and according to the rabbi, the Sifsechamim explains that means the sun. So I remembered that it's a reference to the sun. So in a sense, of course, this isn't something we often think about or even think that it's such a problem, but that when the locusts came in and they ate all of the remainder of the crops, which were still there after the Barad, but there was an extra problem that you couldn't hardly see anything, because it was like a huge swarm that darkened the entire sky, covered up the light, covered up the sun. Seemingly an insignificant detail. But if we think about it in the context of the 3 Makos, the 3 plagues together in this parsha, the next one is clearly more of a darkening situation. It's Makas Choshech. That was what happened. It happened Makas Choshech. And the final Makkah, Makas Bechoros, which of course is a killing of the firstborn of the Egyptian people and animals even. But one of the things that's significant there is that it happened at Chatzos Halayla. It happened in the middle of the night. And the Vilna Gaon, in his Perush on the Haggadah, points out an interesting, another anomaly. He says, really the word Laila, right, should be feminine. Laila is feminine. Like most words that end with a hey, generally speaking, are feminine. So usually you talk about Laila Zu. You should say Laila Zu. This. When you say this in Hebrew, it happens to be not like in English that the word this doesn't matter what you're talking about. If you're talking about any object, we call it this. In Hebrew, of course, it matters whether you're describing a feminine object or a masculine object. If Laila is feminine, it should be Zu. But in the Haggadah, everybody knows with the Manish Shana, Halayla HaZeh. Right? Seemingly a small detail, but as we know, many pearls of wisdom can be contained in a small little detail like that. Says the Vilna Gaon, this is one of those cases where a little window was just opened up into the essence of Pesach, the essence of going out of Egypt. And if you have the perush of the Vilna Gaon on the Haggadah, there are different perushim on the Haggadah. It's a very, very important one. Of course, everything the Vilna Gaon wrote is very important. If you can't get a hold of it, I would suggest it's a very beautiful perush on the Haggadah. But in the meantime, this is what I remember that he says on that point. Why on the night of Pesach we don't refer to it as Laila Hazu, which would be feminine, but Laila Hazeh. Because he says the Laila in Yetzias Mitzrayim wasn't a regular Laila. It was basically taking a Laila, which is normally feminine, like passive as it were, and it became Laila Hazeh. Basically, in a sense, he says, if I remember correctly, the night turned into day. Basically, the night turned into day. And he says, very rarely do we have mitzvahs that we're supposed to do at night. Sometimes you have an extra mitzvah at night. You say Kriya Shema in the morning, you say Kriya Shema at night, because you should be makabel al malchus shemayim all throughout the day, really. But to have a specific mitzvah at night, which Korban Pesach has to be eaten at night, the Haggadah has to be, we're very careful not to even take on early, like people who do take on Shabbos or Yom Tov early normally. We don't do it on Pesach. Pesach, you have to wait till the stars come out. No matter where you are, you're not allowed to start the Seder before the stars come out. It can be very hard in places very far north. Gateshead, I'm sure it's very hard, and Edinburgh, whatever, these places are very far north. They have to wait very, very late at night to start the Seder, because you're not allowed to start early. Why? Because he says, here's something special about Yetzias Mitzrayim, that it took the night and it turned it into day. What does that mean, it took the night and turned it into a day? So in terms of mitzvahs, just like daytime normally has mitzvahs, here the night has all the mitzvahs. Here, of course, you shak Korban Pesach beforehand, but that's maybe more like a preparation. But the real Seder, the real everything goes on at night. The eating of the matzah, the eating of the Korban, the saying of the Haggadah, all of that has to be done at night. So, why is that? He says because basically we took the night, which represents like the dark side of things, the downside of everything, and the negative, dark forces, as it were, of the world, and we took them all and we reversed them. Right? In Mitzrayim, for example, was the place where there was the most idolatry. We know, full of idolatry, and also full of illicit relations, full of what's called znus, and so forth. One of the most difficult places to nurture a nation, and yet we grew in that nation. We grew with like a fetus within a mother, the Maharal says. In a sense, we became something very beautiful and exalted, came out of the filth of Mitzrayim, as it were. An amazing thing. But that's what Hashem is trying to show us, that we're on a journey to accept the Torah, to receive the Torah, and to start to create a light out of the darkness. To take the night and turn it into a day, as it were. And that's why the last three Makos start this progression. The first one in a very gentle way, as other things are going on with the locusts, etc., etc. But the effect is that it's covering up the sun. It starts to bring a hint to the progression that we're in, that we're getting to a point where we're going to take the darkness itself and show that that's what you have to choose. Do you want to be attached to the darkness, or do you want to be attached to the light? So the first one had a slight part of the Makkah was that. The second one, that was the whole Makkah, was the Makkah of Choshech, showing us the darkness of Mitzrayim as opposed to the light of the Jews. And the third one, we take the middle of the night and we say that is when everything is going to happen. The middle of the night, everything is going to be like middle of the day. Because it became Laila Hazeh. We take the dark night and we turn it into a day. And therefore, that's the time when Hashem brought the Makkah Bechoros, and really we should have gone out then, except there was an extra detail that Hashem didn't want to send us out at night, because if you leave at night, it looks like you're a Ganav running away in the middle of the night. So Hashem said, no, wait till the morning, which was also a big test for the Jews, because if right now Egypt was going crazy with all the destruction of all the firstborn, and they're right now very inspired to let you go, take advantage right now. So it was a big nisoyan to wait until the morning. But Hashem said, no, we're going to wait till the morning and go out like mentioned, like proper people who aren't running away in the middle of the night. But essentially could have run away in the middle of the night. The real Geula was in the middle of the night. The real Geula occurred when Hashem came and struck all the firstborn of the Egyptian. And the Jews who had already prepared by putting the blood on the lintel, on the doorpost, etc., and were inside their houses preparing and eating Korban Pesach, for them, that at that moment there was this distinction. Are you part of the night, like the Egyptians, and everything's being destroyed? Or are you part of this new thing, where the night can turn into the day, so to speak, where in the middle of the night, normal people are sleeping, you are doing Korban Pesach, you are saying the Haggadah, you are singing Hallel, you are acting as if it's the middle of the day. And we know many people, their Seder lasts the entire night, right? Some people it lasts till like 2, 3 in the morning. Very hard to get a minyan the next day, right? Everyone's like rubbing the sleep out of their eyes, because that's one of the few times, of course on Leil Shavuos we stay up for a different reason, but in this time we're trying to say that this is the actual Geula. The Geula is where we take the darkness and turn it into the light. And in a sense, that's what being a Jew is. That's what the whole idea is, that we're set on a path in this week's Parsha, out of Mitzrayim and towards Har Sinai, to say this is what our whole job is. This is our new job in life. This is our new mission, to take all the darkness, wherever we find darkness, and turn it into light. And basically, there's an interesting point that I saw in Rabbi Victor Miller, who has a perush on Bereshis, which I saw. I don't know if many people have it. I happened to run across it once. It's in English. It's very, very chashuv sefer. He goes through Sefer Bereshis, and he talks about a lot of important things, as Rabbi Miller usually does, but here it's on the Chumash, which you don't always get to see Rabbi Miller's opinion on the Chumash. In any event, he talks about a number of important things there, of course, and one of the things I remember he mentions is the creation of light. As I mentioned in this week's newsletter, it's not for nothing that the first creation was light. And the first creation was like saying there was choshech, and everything was dark, and there was like destruction, depth, in the depths, and then all of a sudden, Vayhi Or. The first real creation, of course, Bereshis itself is considered a creation of everything that we know, but in a certain sense, the Torah emphasizes in the narration that the first real positive creation was light. And according to many Meforshim, that light really never remained in the world. That light only remained in the world for about 36 hours, according to maybe the Zohar. I don't know exactly, I remember it in the back of my mind. Someone says that's the same 36 hours that we have, the same 36 that we have on Hanukkah. That on Hanukkah, if you add up all the lights, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, you end up with 36, like those. Right, the little packages of candles always have 36 in them, right? So that's the same 36 hours, which is basically just more than a day, like slightly more than a day, and like a 12-hour period of that light permeated the world. And then Hashem took it out of the world, and He saves it for Olam Ha'emes. But He said, according to the Baal HaTurim, He hid it in the Torah. That means we actually find it when we learn the Torah. We're always feeling that the world is becoming a brighter place, right? We sometimes have that expression, Hashem yoyer einai, Hashem should enlighten my eyes with the Torah. The yoyer eineinu, Surah Sech, we daven in Myron. There's a certain enlightenment that we feel when we learn the Torah, that somehow the light that was originally created coming back to us. And according to the Midrash, that was the same light that the Jews had in the Makav Choshech. But we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves, but I just wanted to point out, where Ed Miller points out, which I thought was a beautiful observation, that he says, in the morning we make a bracha on light, right? Before the Kriya Shema. It's a very, very long bracha. He says it's the longest bracha that there is. I take his word for it, or if you find differently, please tell me. But this is what I understood him to say. The longest bracha, right? We started out, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam yotzer or v'rei choshech. He creates the light, and he created darkness, different verbs being used for each. Oseh shalom v'reis hakol. Then we go through, Hami'ir la'aretz, blah, 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 again and again, coming back and forth to the light. And other subjects seem to be mentioned also here. But at the very end, we go back to the light metaphor, and we say, Or chadash al Tzion to'ir, may there come a new light on Tzion, right? And may we all be zoicha to very speedily to this light, this special light of the Beis HaMikdash. And actually, the Beis HaMikdash is called Or Shalom. The Beis HaMikdash, more says in Baba Basra, is called the light of the world. In any event, why do we make such a big to-do over light? Why it's the first creation that we talk about, and why is there such a long bracha about light? What's the big deal about light? Again, because if our whole project, the whole project of the world is to take the darkness and turn it into light, and to reach for the light, to try to find the light in everything we do, then we have to make a big deal out of it. We have to impress upon ourselves and thank Hashem for it very much. So that's why there's a huge bracha there. It's kedai to go over the whole bracha there and see the different aspects that are spoken of. And that's also what happened in Makkah's Choshech. In Makkah's Choshech, it's like the last Makkah, according to some, that the Makkahs follow the reverse order of creation. The first Makkah is like handling the end of creation, and we get slowly and slowly back towards the beginning of creation. That's why the very last Makkah, pretty much, is light, right? The very last, the second to last, at least, Makkah in this week's Parsha is to destroy the light, as it were. To take light away from the Mitzrayim and put them in darkness. And according to this, Hashem had to take the world that had been, in a sense, corrupted by the Goyim, and needed to be reshaped through the Jews' keeping of the Torah. And he had to take each one of the things that had created the world, let there be this, let there be that, and change it. Like the animals, there had to be a mock of animals, and so on and so forth. And the last one, second to last one, just like in the beginning of creation, the second thing that Hashem created was light. The first thing was just Bereshis. Everything generally is starting. But the first real creation was light. So here Hashem took away the light to reshape the light, as it were, reshape the world through this new creation of light. And the last one is Makkah's Bechoros, is like taking away the creation, the Reshis, the beginning of every man as his firstborn son, first power of a person, as it were, the Torah says. So that is taken away and reshaped, and then we come to Har Sinai, we get to Seres Adibros, giving each one of those things back to us one by one. But in any event, so in this week's Parsha, we see the Makkah of Choshech, where the light is taken away from the Mitzrayim and is given to the Jews. But it's not a regular light that's given to the Jews. What's the proof that it wasn't a regular light that the Jews had? Because we know, for example, all the Makkos affected the Mitzrayim. It didn't affect us. They had blood, we had water still. Their cattle were killed, our cattle weren't killed. But in all of those Makkos, it was just the bad thing that happened to them didn't happen to us. We didn't get more than them. Right? We didn't get anything better than them. But in this Makkah, we got something better than them. That means not just we didn't get Choshech, we remained with the regular light, we got a special light that accompanied us. So that means I would walk in a room, and the Goy would be sitting in the darkness, and the Jew would be able to see everything. That was clear, that the Jew didn't have the problem of the darkness that the Goy had. But here the Jew had a better light. What's the better light? He could see into everything, inside of everything. He had like X-ray vision, right? The Makkah of Choshech gave the Jews the ability, and that's why later when they left Egypt, and they were supposed to ask all the Egyptians for their different treasures, different things, that they said, we're going to go celebrate a special festival with Hashem, we need special dresses, we need special jewelry, etc. And the Goy would say, I really don't have any to spare, I'm really sorry. And the Jew would say, you don't? Well, I saw it under your bed over there, right? Or I saw it inside of your safe. I saw it inside of the special hiding place that you have. And the Goy was like, when did you see that? He said, in Makkah's Choshech. In Makkah's Choshech, I walked into your house, and I could have taken it then, but I don't do what Hashem doesn't tell me to do. So I'm faithful to that rule of not taking what's not mine. But now Hashem said it's time, and I want you to give me and lend me that object which you're hiding. How did the Jew know about it? Because he had X-ray vision. He could see inside of something. What kind of light is that? What kind of light did the Jews have that gave them that X-ray vision? It was the same light as is in the Torah that we're saying is not the normal light, but a special spiritual light that the world was created with. Originally was created at the beginning of the world, and Hashem hid in the Torah. So the Midrash says that that's the same light that they had now. Why did Hashem have to do that? Not just to show them where all the jewelry was, but to show them the new path that they're on. This is a new path. We're on a new path towards a special kind of spiritual light. Like it says, Or Chadash Al Tzion To'ir, a special new light, a special new kind of light, which the Torah represents. And when we go to Har Sinai, we're going to have an even bigger revelation of that light, the Torah itself. But a person has to be put on a special path to accept the Torah. A person has to be put on a special path to adjust himself to a new life. You can't just say, this is the new thing. Right? The Jews had a long period of adjustment. They left Egypt and they had another 49 days till they received the Torah. But here already, with these makkos and this parsha, they're getting slowly adjusted to the new idea. That their job is to go towards the light. Their job is to change every situation of darkness into a situation of light. And to find the light in each situation. And certainly when we learn the Torah, to find the truth and the light in the Torah. So, this is a special lesson that the Jews had to learn as well as the Goyim. It's really more of these lessons are for us than the Goyim. Obviously the Goyim have to learn a certain lesson through the Makkos, that Hashem is in control and they can't just do whatever they want in this world, like they had to learn with the Mabul, like they had to learn at different times in history. But the main message is for the Jews. The Jews had to start their journey over here. They had to start a new page, a new chapter in their history, where they become true Abdei Hashem. So being in Mitzrayim was a preparation for that, and the very end of coming out of Mitzrayim was the bigger preparation that they have to start to see things differently. Their worldview has to start to change. Part of the problem was that they were slaves for 200 years. So Hashem took them and they gave them slowly a new way of looking at the world. And the part of that was to see the Goyim are sitting in darkness and you have light. And not just you have regular light, you have special light. The special light that's really hidden in the Torah, that soon you're going to receive that Torah. And even the darkness that the Egyptians were in was not a normal darkness either. The darkness that the Egyptians sat in, right, for 3 days they just couldn't see, but the other 3 days they couldn't even get up. That's what the Torah says. 3 days they couldn't see, and 3 days they couldn't move. They couldn't move from their place. Why can't you move? If you go in a dark room, you can move around. You can't see. You might bump into things, but you can move around. So why does the Torah say they couldn't move around for 3 days? Because it says that there was a certain type of darkness there, which was actually physical. It could actually keep you physically planted in one place. So that if they were sitting, they had to sit all those 3 days. They couldn't get up. If they were standing, they couldn't sit. So whatever position they were in, they were stuck. What kind of message is that? Obviously, it's a message of what the darkness does to a person. Darkness makes a person stuck in his evil ways and can keep him immobilized and paralyzed and not allow him to keep going towards his destination. But worse than that, according to the Midrash, this darkness was really the darkness of Gehenna, right? In the world to come, we'll experience the light of Hashem, the Ziv of the Shekhinah, the Mesillas Yesharim calls it. But the Goyim have a darkness to contend with. Gehenna will be painful, but it'll also be very dark. And this is the same darkness that they were plagued with in this week's Parsha. The same darkness of Gehenna. So, again, it was an important lesson for the Goyim to learn, but I don't think they learned it too well, because they're still making the same mistakes as they did thousands of years ago, still blaming us for all their problems, and still attacking us, thinking that if they could just harm us, their life would improve, and they keep trying and trying and trying, and they keep failing. So they're like the Mitzrayim who are stuck in their evil ways. They can't seem to break the habit of anti-Semitism. So I don't think that's why Hashem sent the message. Hashem, again, is more interested that we should improve our ways than teaching the Goyim, because the Goyim may never learn. Some Goyim learn. Rus was a righteous Gioris, and there is such a thing. But the main message of the Torah in each situation and each chapter of the Torah is really for the Jews. So the Jews, when they went into the Goy's house, and they were, yes, looking for the jewelry, etc., but the main thing wasn't just to find the jewelry. The main thing was to find the real treasure. The real treasure is to realize, if I act like the Goyim, I'll be stuck in darkness. And a kind of darkness, this kind of darkness of Gehenna, that could keep you paralyzed and locked into your situation. And those who go to Gehenna, who don't have like the Jews' way of going to Gehenna, will be there forever and ever. And they'll be really stuck there.
Do they have Gehenna?
Excuse me?
Does the Goy have Gehenna?
I think so. If I'm not mistaken, when Onkelos was thinking of being Misgayer, he had a certain way of talking to the dead, and he was able to talk to certain people who were not Jewish, and asked them, should I join the Jews? Or what's with the Jews? And they gave their opinion. Right? It's a whole Gemara there in Gittin, if I'm not mistaken. So, to my understanding, that means the Goyim were still around. They're still suffering in very disgusting places in Gehenna. Not for only 12 months like a Jew, or 11 months, or whatever we do. Right? But, again, so a Jew walked into this Egyptian house, what was he thinking to himself? Baruch Hashem, I'm not stuck, and I'm not blinded by this darkness. I can see, and I can see into things. I can see beyond the physical. I can see into beyond the physical barriers that normally we can't see through. Because this is the light that we're now experiencing. This is the path that we could be on. If we leave Egypt now, and we go out and accept the Torah, unfortunately many Jews didn't realize that, and they got killed in the Makkah Choshech. According to the Midrash, which we know, it says in next week's parsha, in Bashalach, it says they came out